round two.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing for Resolution 2018-24. This is a resolution to adopt a limited home rule government pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 504.01. To begin with this public hearing, I'm going to go ahead and ask our administrator to give a brief outline of limited home rule governance, its authorizations in Ohio Revised Code, an outline of what it means, what it entails, and also the things that it does not involve. So from that standpoint, Andy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway, members of the board, Mrs. Dawson, members of the audience, good evening. Pursuant to limited home rule, House Bill 77, which was signed by then Governor George Voinovich in 1991, allows townships in the state of Ohio to adopt limited home rule following prescribed procedures that are outlined in Ohio Revised Code section 504.01. The limited home rule form of government gives broader powers to townships that enact it. It allows a township and its citizens to be more proactive in creating legislation of benefit to those within the community. Limited home rule allows townships to enact resolutions to improve the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. And it should be noted that the township may not exercise any power that conflicts with the general laws of the state. Types of legislation that are permissible under limited home rule include, but are not limited to, adopting property maintenance codes, establishing speed limits on township roads, passing nuisance and public safety resolutions. It gives us broader power to regulate junk vehicles. We can institute a curfew restriction for minors. We can institute emergency traffic and parking ordinances. It gives broader powers to enforce zoning codes and other resolutions. It gives us more regulation on parking, noise control, and abating nuisances. Townships that are limited home rule can regulate manufacturers, dealers, peddlers, and amusement establishments. And it gives us regulation over noxious weeds, brush, and litter. And it gives us broader powers to deal with other political subdivisions. Some of the things that are not permitted by limited home rule, and probably the most important, is no tax other than as authorized under the general laws. A township-wide income tax cannot be imposed. I'm going to repeat that. A township-wide income tax cannot be imposed under limited home rule. We may not encroach upon the powers, duties, and privileges of elected township officials. We may not modify the form or structure of the township government. We cannot create any criminal offenses or impose criminal penalties. We may not establish or revise subdivision regulations, road construction standards, or stormwater drainage regulations. We may not establish or revise building codes or standards or other standard codes. And we do not have the ability to establish regulations that affect hunting, trapping, fishing, or the possession, use, or sale of firearms. Those are some of the highlights of the do's and don'ts of a limited home rule township government. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think what I'll do, Andy, is I will open it up to the public for questions or comments asked at this time. Just like our previous public hearing, if you'd like to come up and address the board, please do so. State your name and your address for the court reporter. And so I will go to the floor now. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the board or have any questions as it relates to this public hearing under Resolution 2018-24? There's none. I will go ahead and see about trustee comment. Obviously, we're going to discuss this in our meeting. I would open it up, and if there's any comments you'd like to sort of preliminary make at this time.
No, I have none right now.
Okay.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. I would just say for folks at home who are wondering, well, gee, what is this? As Andy has outlined, limited home rule is an extension of township governance that was initially granted in 1991 by the legislature and Governor Voinovich. It has been modified and changed through the years, mostly expanded as it relates to authorities that are granted to townships. Generally, and there are a number of guidelines in terms of townships, in terms of their eligibility for home rule. Concord meets those, limited home rule, and this is something that we as a township, as a board of trustees, have looked at for about a decade now in terms of researching, analyzing, looking at the possibility of adopting this for Concord Township. We would potentially be the first, we would be the first in Concord, not the first in Northeast Ohio, however. There are a couple of townships in Trumbull County that have adopted it a number of years ago. There are also a number of townships in Southwest Ohio and Northwest Ohio that have adopted the limited home rule resolution. So the resolution itself under Ohio Revised Code would require a unanimous vote of the Board of Trustees in order to go into effect. And if it was adopted, it must remain in effect for a period of a time no less than 2 years. So there is a minimum time frame. If it's adopted?
It's 3.
Oh, is it actually 3? I'm
It's
sorry,
3
yes. 3 years, apologies. There's a 3-year period under which it must be remain in effect. After that time, it could potentially be repealed if a township chose to. No township in Ohio that has adopted limited home rule has ever repealed the regulations. One other thing that's important to note is that townships that adopt limited home rule governance have the ability to pass resolutions under Ohio Revised Code, as we do now as a township, or under our limited home rule authorities. So a township can choose when to use the limited home rule authorities in terms of the resolutions that would be passed. So that's another thing to point out. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing unless you have any other comments. I know we're going to have more to say about this as we get into our regular meeting. So I will, if there's no comment from the public, I will go ahead and close the public hearing on this matter. That means that we will have our regularly scheduled meeting. I was trying to filibuster there.
I know, I saw
I wasn't
that.
going to make it to 7.